Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In the last videos we have discussed about the introduction to an accounting, its advantages, its disadvantages and its process. Now let's just move to the next topic, which is basic accounting terms. Basic accounting terms are basically the terms that are helpful in understanding the accounting in a better way. We have already discussed few terms in the first video, but we'll discuss few more terms for understanding it in a better way. Now in this video, I have already written the content to make it easier or understandable for you people. So the first one is business transaction. Now transaction is already being discussed in the last video, that it is the exchange of goods and services. Exchange of goods and services in monetary term. Most important word here is monetary term. Now whenever the goods and services are being exchanged for the money, that is known as business transaction. Now this business transaction can be of two types. It can be cash transaction or it can be credit transaction. What is basically cash transaction? Cash transaction is that type of transaction in which the amount of money is paid or received immediately. Immediately means, for example, you sold furniture for rupees 10,000 and the amount of money has been received on the spot, that is 10,000 has been received on the spot, then this is called as cash transaction. Now the other one is credit transaction. What is basically credit transaction? When the amount is not settled on the spot or it is to be settled later on, which means that when the amount of money is not received or paid immediately. Like in the example, you purchased furniture for 10,000 but you have not paid the amount, that is 10,000, on the spot, or you are paying the amount after 3 months or within 3 months. So this will be called as credit transaction. So whenever there is a business transaction or there is an exchange of goods and services, it can be of two types, cash and credit transactions. Now the second one is account. We are always talking about the accounting. We have discussed already what is accounting, but what basically account means. Account is basically a record, or you can say summarized record of the transaction under one particular head. For example, you are purchasing furniture for 3 times. So in this, furniture is that particular account under which all the transactions related to furniture will be recorded. So what account is? It is the summarized record of transaction under the particular head at one place. As already discussed, for example, you purchased the goods on 30th July, 9th of August, 15th of August. So you are purchasing goods on different dates. So there will be one particular head that will be created is stock. Stock is that one particular head or the account which will be created for the different dates. So what is basically account? It is the summarized record of the transactions that have been purchased or that have been undergone under different dates. Like in this example, 30th, 9th of August, 15th of August and so on. These goods have been purchased on different dates. So one particular head for them will be created, which is stock. All the transaction related to stock will be recorded under this one particular head. So two are very much clear, I think, business transaction and account. Now the third one is capital. You might have heard that we invested so much amount of capital in the business. We are investing so much amount of capital in the business. But basically, what does capital means? Capital is any amount that is being invested in the business. Like for example, I am the owner of the business and I am investing 2 lakh rupees into the business. I am paying 2 lakh rupees to the business. Now the amount that is being paid to the business is known as the capital. Any amount in the form of cash or in the form of goods that is being invested in the business is known as capital. Now capital is also known as net worth or owner's equity. It is also known as net worth or owner's equity. Now one thing here that is important to note is that liability capital is the liability for the business. Why it is called as the liability for the business? Because in accounting we have one particular concept that says that business and businessmen are two separate entities. For example, I am being the owner, and I am investing so much amount into the business. Now my business and I are two separate entities. Now I am owning the business, but that doesn't mean that business do not have any kind of liability towards me. Now the amount of money that I am investing in my business is known as the liability for the business. Liability means that business has to return the same amount of money invested by the owner in the later period. So this concept which says that business and businessmen are two separate entities is known as business entity concept. Okay, so what basically capital means? It is any amount that is being invested into the business, and moreover it is the liability for the business because of the concept business entity concept. Now the next one is drawings. As already been discussed, capital is the amount that is being invested into the business. So what basically drawing means? Any amount that is being withdrawn by the owner. Like I am investing 2 lakh rupees into the business and I am taking my money back for my personal use. Let's say 10,000 rupees I'm taking back for my personal use, then that will be called as the drawings. So drawings is basically any amount withdrawn or goods taken by the proprietor for personal use. Proprietor here is the owner. Anything that is being taken by the proprietor or the owner for his personal use, that will be known as drawings. Now we know that capital is the liability for the firm, and drawing is the amount that reduces the capital for the firm. For example, if you have withdrawn 10,000 rupees from 2 lakh rupees, so here the company will be liable for 1,90,000 rupees only. The company now is not responsible for 2 lakh rupees because you have already withdrawn 10,000 rupees from the business. So that is known as drawings. Any amount or goods that is being withdrawn from the business is known as drawings. Next concept here is liability. Liability, I have told you that it is any amount that is being payable by the business. Any amount that is being payable by the business is known as liability. Now, for example, business has taken a loan for rupees, let's say 5 lakh rupees. Okay, business has taken the loan. Now, this loan has to be paid back. So this is called as the liability for the firm. Any amount payable by the business in future, you can say. It is known as liability. Now liability, if we classify into smaller concept, it can be of internal liability or the external liability. Now what basically internal liability? Internal liability is the liability that is towards the owner of the firm. Like me being the owner of the firm, invested rupees 50,000 into the business. Now 50,000 is the liability, internal liability towards the owner, towards me. Okay, internal liability is any liability that is towards the owner of the business. Now what is external liability? In other way, external liability is any liability towards the outsider. Like firm has not taken the money from its owner, or it has taken the money from its outsider. For example, here it is already written creditors or loans, etc. taken from outside. It is known as external liability. Now, in the broader concept, liability is also classified into two other parts. It can be non-current liability or the current liability. I think it is very much clear from the word current. Current means immediate liability. Non-current means any liability that is to be paid on the future date. On the future date means it is to be payable after 1 year. For example, you have taken so much amount of money from the creditors and it is to be payable after 2 years. So it is the long-term loan. It is kind of long-term loan you have taken from the other person. So it is non-current liability because it is to be payable after 2 years. Now what is current liability? Any liability that is to be payable within an year. Within one particular year is known as current liability. It can be short-term loans or it can be creditors. So liability is basically 4 types of liability: internal liability, external liability, non-current liability, and current liability. I think liability is clear to you people. So let's just move to next topic, which is asset. Now liability is the amount that is to be payable in the future. Now what is basically asset for the business? Asset is any amount or any kind of goods, or you can say that anything that is owned by the business. Owned by the business, for example, business is having machinery, business is having furniture. These will be considered as the asset for the business. So anything that is owned by the business that's currently valuable or provide monetary benefit in the future. Currently valuable means that it has certain current value, which means that if you go into the market and sell the amount furniture, it will be having certain value at which you can sell the same in the market. So that so it is anything owned by the business having the current value. And the second one is, or it provide monetary benefits in the future. Monetary benefits से क्या मतलब है? That if you are selling the goods, if you are manufacturing the goods, that manufactured goods will be sold in the market. Now, whenever you're going to sell the same in the market, then it will be having certain kind of value. So anything that is owned by the business, whether it has current value or it has monetary benefits into the future, or which means that it is providing certain amount of money right now, or it will be providing certain amount of money on the later date. Okay, asset is anything owned by the business. Now asset can also be classified into the 2 parts, which is non-current asset and the current asset. Same as the liability. Non-current asset is any asset that is held for longer period of time, and longer period here is more than 1 year. Any asset that is being purchased and held for more than 1 year is known as non-current asset. For example, you purchase a machinery. Whenever you purchase a machinery, you don't think that you need to sell the machinery within 1 year. You keep that machinery for 5 years or let's say 10 years. So this is non-current asset. Now what is basically current asset? Current asset is the asset that is held for shorter period. Here shorter period can be less than 1 year. For example, stock is to be sold within 1 year. Okay, so this is current asset.